just intent and focus before each play. Taking a breath, flushing the last one. I'm going to run every route like the ball's coming to me. I'm going to block every block like I'm the point of attack. It's just important to just have intent before each play.
What Tucker Kraft said.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. That voice you heard off the top, Tucker Kraft, talking about the difference between playing with aggression and playing with a focused intensity. It is a crucial distinction as the Green Bay Packers try and beat some of the best teams in the NFC. Here is a further explanation of what Tucker Kraft saw as one of the reasons why the Packers potentially started off a little slow in terms of the quality of their play. They didn't start off slow. They started off a little sloppy. There's a reason.
Last game was a check for us because we had guys playing with, myself included, playing with aggression, but not necessarily, the best technique. There's a few times where I went in full head of steam trying to hit a guy, but my angles were off and I wasn't staying connected in my block, and that's a difference between tackle on line of scrimmage versus a 6-8 explosive play. So going forward, I think we're gonna just take each game, as I say all the time, each game one game at a time, one play at a time, and in this next storm of games we're gonna be locked in. We're gonna be energized. We're gonna bring that juice. We're gonna be locked into our technique, our assignment, our alignment. If we win the line of scrimmage, we win each game.
And the reason I love this distinction is go back to last year when the Packers were playing their best. Really, the only time we saw them be good in the second half was when they were playing without expectations. No one expected them to go in and beat Detroit. No one expected him to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And then what happened? They did that. They started feeling themselves a little bit, and they did not bring the right mindset to either the Buccaneers or the Giants games. Now they got their minds right. They got focused, and they played with intensity, but they played with desperation. They knew it's win or go home. It's a different level of focus. That can sharpen your focus. Andrew Brent loves to say deadline spur action. Well, when your back's against the wall, it's the same sort of deal. It's not a coincidence they played better in the second half of the Thursday night game or in the second half of last season. They go out against Dallas. They are touchdown underdogs, the youngest playoff team to ever win a playoff game. No expectations. But then all of a sudden, the pressure amps up. And they come out, they play with focus. They play with aggression, but also focus against the 49ers. They couldn't sustain it. They missed some opportunities. They weren't as talented as that 49ers team. And this is what happens. They wanted to come out and match the intensity of the Lions. Here's the problem. The Lions, in their cycle, are a year ahead of Green Bay in their development. Jared Goff has played in these games. He knows what that focus looks like. Last year, we saw the Lions have to play in some monster games. They advanced to the NFC Championship game. Now, they came up short too, but they also played in some big-time regular season games where there are expectations, where there were playoff stakes, where seeding is on the line. Thursday night was the best combined record for a game that late in the season ever on a Thursday night. Ever. It was the biggest regular season game of Jordan Love's career, of Jaden Reed's career, of Josh Jacobs' career, of Tucker Kraft's career, of Xavier McKinney's career. In almost every case, this was the biggest regular season game of everyone's career. Maybe Jair Alexander and Kenny Clark can offer alternatives. Not sure anyone else can. Maybe Brandon McManus. Maybe. Doubt it. This is a different level. We talked before the year about the difference between being the hunter versus the hunted. And even though the Packers are third in their division, as Vikings fans and Lions fans love to point out, they were still a 9-3 team. They're 9-4 now. And most of the teams in the NFC are looking up at them. There is an expectation that they're going to compete for this conference this season. The pressure on them, because the expectations on them is different. And the pressure to meet the moment against the best team in the NFL, a team that you know you're going to have to bring your shoulder pads every single play, it can cause you to play outside of yourself. I love the explanation there from Tucker saying, look, there were times I was trying to go hunt up somebody. I'm trying to put a lick on them. I'm trying to match intensity, but got outside my details. Didn't take the right angle, didn't use the right technique. There was a play where he tries to go light up an edge defender for the Lions, and he got lit up because he didn't take a good angle. And so this is a learning moment. He called it a check. That's what the regular season is for. Look at this, like Ben Baldwin, former athletic writer, longtime number cruncher. He wrote about this or posted about it on the socials. The Packers, Vikings, and Lions are 28-3 against the rest of the NFL. The Packers have 2 losses to the Lions, 1 to the Vikings. The Vikings have a loss to the Lions. Other than that, they don't lose. Lost to the Eagles, leaders in the NFC East. The Vikings lost to the Rams, who just played the game of the year and who are a game out of the NFC West. And the Lions lost to the Buccaneers, who are now leading the NFC South. This is the best division in the league by a country damn mile. And the Packers are one of the best, by the way, now third in DVOA, overall, total DVOA on the season. Third in offense, 11th on defense. This is one of the best teams in the league, even with some of these missteps. No, they don't have a ton of wins over teams that are really good, although the Rams now qualify as a winning team. But they've only lost to really, really good teams. 3 of their losses in the division. The only other loss is to probably the second best team in the NFC, certainly the second best team by record. This is all part of learning. Aaron Rodgers used to always say that no matter the composition of the team, you always have to, every season, learn to win again as a team. And this was another check. And I think it's really good for the Packers that they have to go play a real team on Sunday night. That they have to, even in a way, good that they have to travel. Because then it's a business trip. It's locked in. We are just laser focused on the task at hand against a very good football team. And if you don't go out there and play with that requisite intensity and focus and preparation all week, you're going to get your ass kicked. That's what Matt LaFleur said almost verbatim. He said, if you look ahead, if you're not focused on what you're going to do, you're going to get your ass kicked. That is his expletive, not mine. I mean, it's mine now, but he said it first. So they seem aware of that. And if we take them at their word, or at least Tucker Kraft's word, that this is something that they have, or at least can learn from and understand, okay, just because you buckle your chin strap tight and you try and make some big time blocks does not mean you are on your details. That the detail part of it is just as important. Easy to forget this is the youngest team in the league. Being a little emotional to start, a little over aggressive to start, it makes sense. And then in the second half, we saw the talent shine through. They outplayed the Detroit Lions for a half. They outplayed the Vikings for a half. You'd like to see them play a 4-quarter game this year, and you hope that it's something that they can do in the postseason. All right, I didn't even mention it off the top, but our pal Lily Zhao, you guys know. It's in the title. It's in the description. You guys know. Lily Zhao's on the show today. We'll talk to her next. I know you're like me and your holiday shopping list is, let's just say, far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fans in your life. Perhaps you've heard of IceShaker. IceShaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NCAA, NBA, Major League Baseball, and it will make the ideal gift. Created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers, also used by Peter Bukowski. IceShakers have sold over 1 million bottles. They've changed the game with workout bottles, and this is the gift that you've been looking for. Go to IceShaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% on your order. It is kitchen-grade stainless steel that won't absorb odor like those plastic bottles. You don't want to deal with that. I've had to throw out bottles because they just reek. They're terrible. The agitator works as a strainer as well and makes it very solid to tailgate, mix drinks, not just a fitness thing for you. Order your team random bottle at IceShaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. IceShakers, show your support for your team with the best branded workout bottles on the market. It's IceShakers. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks. If you love watching the game, you're going to love Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. Whether it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. Here's why you need to check it out. Now you can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 picks free in December. And when your pick hits, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. It is the way to play daily fantasy sports. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play that $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. It's been a while now since the Green Bay Packers have played. I'm sure you remember what happened on Thursday night. The Lions fans in my mentions certainly do. So to bring a little bit of sunshine on what can be dreary days in December as we get ready for the holiday season, our pal from Fox 6 in Milwaukee, Lily Zhao, to answer the holiday question is, how you doing?
Well, Peter, the fact that you called me a ray of sunshine, I will take it. That made my day. I love being on here with you and having everyone listen. So because of that, I'm doing swell today. And, we're getting closer to true holiday spirit. And so I'm excited. It's a fun week despite the results of the Packers game, but I am doing very well. How you doing?
I'm good. It is almost the time when we get to suspend all rules of human decency when it comes to calorie intake.
Oh yeah.
And I appreciate that a great deal. So and maybe some of you just are like, whatever, between Thanksgiving and New Year's, like that's just a dead zone, and then you figure out the rest starting in January. I think that's a good strategy. The Packers face a somewhat similar situation here for the next month because the NFC North is kind of off the table. They've got a pretty simple path to getting into the playoffs. It's like win one game, basically. We'll get to that part of this. The Lions, though, did you come out of that game? Let me ask it this way. How did you come out of that game feeling about the Packers? Any differently than going in?
I think going in, I was expecting a Packers win. Because we saw that pattern last year. This team adapts to seeing the same team twice in a season. Yeah. But, despite the loss, I think the interesting part of it was this was not a locker room that was dejected. Of course they lost, so no one's happy about that. But it wasn't like the season's over, we're a terrible team. Had there been more time on the clock, maybe we're talking about a different outcome. If that OPI wasn't called on Christian Watson, we're talking about a different outcome. So I don't think this is a team that, is down on themselves. They know they let one get away because of that slow start in the first half. But this is still a team that can go toe-to-toe with anybody. And we've seen them go toe-to-toe with the best teams in the NFC, Eagles, Lions, and Vikings. And they just haven't gotten over the hump to get the win. But you have to believe that if they want to make a deep postseason run, that's what they're going to have to do. But leaving the Lions game, I think I was disappointed they didn't get the win because I thought they had it in the bag in the second half.
It seemed once they took the lead in the second half, it did feel that way, especially after the turnover and you start to get rolling. The offense gets rolling. Do you think any of this is cultural, is attitude? Because the first half they came out flat, at least offensively, and the Lions came out with a no-name defense, especially up front, firing and beating up the Packers offensive line. It's hard not to connect those dots to Dan Campbell a little bit. And this is a team that twice now has basically said, we feel like we still feel like we're the better team. If this were the Lions saying this, Lily, I would be on the show going, that's loser behavior. Like, that's not how this works. Do you think part of this is attitude?
I think so. And I think what is telling is, in that first game, you see Brian Branch with the double birds. Second game, introductions. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of swag. And what is so fun about the Lions is that they back it up. They back up the smack talk. And that's exactly what they do. And they beat you. And they beat you on the road. They beat you at home. And so the Packers have to match that physicality. And I think when you looked at that first half, like you said, a bunch of no-name defensive linemen were taking it to the Packers offensive line. And I don't think that I saw that as a mismatch. I was going into the game thinking the Packers offensive line against a depleted Lions D-line, that should be a battle the Packers win every single day. And that wasn't the case. I mean, you have Dan Campbell, who is really great at firing up his guys, Aaron Glenn calling a great game, and kind of just whoever he has back there, they're playing like a starter. And so I think for the Packers, if they do see Detroit in the postseason, they have to match that physicality, because if not, they're going home. This is a Lions team that is gritty. We've seen them go for it on fourth down every single time, and they still convert. And I think that just backs up just what this Lions brand of football is. They're physical, they're gritty, and they take the risks, and it pays off for them. So for the Packers to do the same, I think they have to match that.
I have started to wonder, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately, Lily, like the idea of rivalry. And is this a rivalry? And Lions fans seem to want very badly for the Packers to feel about the Lions the way that Lions fans feel about the Packers and have felt for years. And it struck me as I was, in dipping my toes into the college football playoff discourse a little bit, that it's like when these prestige programs start to get beat by these on the rise programs, like a Boise State comes in and gets a win or something like that, even in Arizona State. And you go, wait, we're Alabama, we're Georgia. Like, what is this? And that they feel that even young players like, Jaden Reed, Jordan Love, it's not like they've been around for Super Bowl runs, but it's the Packers. And I wonder if there's any of that's sort of, and LaFleur talks about the standard, all that stuff. Is that just a different kind of idea that maybe they need to readjust a little bit as they are starting to look up at the Detroit Lions? I don't know. It's just something that I've been thinking about here.
Right. And outside of, say the Kansas City Chiefs, they've been a dynasty, it feels like forever. And the Patriots back in their time with Tom Brady, you're never truly going to be a sustained franchise if you don't do that, right? You can always be good, but if you don't adjust on the fly, and there's going to be teams that surpass you, year after year potentially, but if you don't adjust and you don't kind of have a different approach to things, you're going to be at this level. You want to be at a better level. And if the Lions are the best team in the NFL this year, I think they are the best team. Yeah. You have to get up there. And yeah, tradition says the Packers have been better than the Lions in the past, but this year it's different. This year Detroit is the top team. So what do you do to adjust your attitude to get back up there? Because I think as much as tradition helps Green Bay, the results on the field this year haven't really backed that up. And so I think every year is a different challenge. And I think that's why you have to kind of take every year differently. But yeah, you're right. There is a different kind of shift in attitude in terms of this rivalry between Detroit and Green Bay that we haven't seen pre-Dan Campbell.
I'm going to ask you, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. If you were to rank Packers rivals, where do you like, from a team, an organization perspective, from a fan perspective, where do you think the Lions are? Like, are they in the top three?
That's a good question. I think Bears, obviously.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are saying the Niners, just with how the playoff run is gone.
I think you have to put the Niners in there right now. Even I think in a lot of ways, it feels like the Packers feel about the Niners the way that they're starting to feel about the Lions.
Right.
They're not like this. We're talking about going back to 2012. Like this is over a decade of this in the playoffs.
Right. And then obviously the Vikings, but I would say I think the Lions are top 3, maybe top 5. Would you say top 3?
No, I don't think top 3. And I think for Packer fans of a certain age, the Cowboys are still like,
the
Packer
Cowboys
fans still relish beating the Cowboys more than the Lions. And part of that is because it's just been a given that they're going to beat the Lions twice every year. And if they don't, it's one of those like funny, quirky, the lovable Lions, they got the Packers on one, Matthew Stafford did a crazy thing, or Scott Mitchell, whatever. It's interesting how the dynamic has changed here. Back with Lily Zhao here in just a second on Locked On Packers. Get ready to tackle the NFL playoff push with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. Now for your second listen, go check out Locked On NFL, now with 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's switch gears and let's talk about the Seahawks, their upcoming opponent. I mentioned not having really a lot to play for here over the next month in terms of playoff seeding. Yes, there's a difference between 7 and 5, but like not that much difference really. And NFL teams tend to not care about stuff like that. So for you, what do you think is the best use of the next month? Do they have to work on something? Do they need to try to figure something out? Do they need to play some different guys? Like, what do you think is the best way, assuming also that they try and win one of these games? But that is there something they can be doing? I suggested yesterday, hey, maybe experiment, maybe try some different things and just see what happens. What would you do if you were given some opportunities to maybe play around a little bit?
Absolutely. I think it would be consistency on offense, pass rush on defense, and blow out an opponent. I don't think we've seen that happen this year. And I think for this Packers team, win or lose, I think you want to be building momentum as you go into the postseason. And I'm kind of the mentality of, okay, they can certainly afford to drop a game to Seattle, but why? It's you want to go into the playoffs on a heater. So why don't you want to win every single game left on your schedule? It's going to be tough. The Vikings sit there, second to last game of the regular season. That'll be a fun game, but I don't think you want to just be good enough heading into the postseason, because depending on where your seeding is, I mean, it could be the Seahawks, right? If the season ended today, it could be Seattle again. But I think what I want to see from this Packers team is consistency on offense. When there are 3 divisional games against the Vikings and Lions, slow start in the first half, really came back to bite them.
Good point.
Really hot second halves. They couldn't get the win in either of 3 of those games. So play a consistent 60 minutes of offensive football. I want to see something in terms of a pass rush, because as you know, in the playoffs, those quarterbacks are a lot better. And I think I just want to see them blow out an opponent. Can you do it? The Lions, when you watch them all season, they don't play around with their food. They just go out and dominate. So can the Packers do the same with a more manageable month ahead outside of the Vikings?
Yeah, and I think the 49ers game certainly counts technically, but given how banged up they were, like blow out a real team, I think is what you're saying. Like go beat the Seahawks by 17. And I think that would be the kind of bounce back signature win that makes you go, okay, like everything's going to be okay. I think that would be really, really okay. It's very novel analysis to say, yeah, go beat a decent team and beat them, handily. But it is something that I think from a constructive, productivity standpoint, that would be really nice to have as they move forward here. I'm already thinking about the last few weeks and what they mean and what they don't mean. Do you think, I'll ask it this way, not do you think they should, but do you think the Packers will consider, if the standings are more or less set week 17, week 18, do you think they will consider sitting key players?
That's a good question. I'm going to say no, just depending on, or just because of who they play. I would say maybe if it wasn't the Vikings, if it wasn't the Bears, they would
That's what the NFL wants, by the way. They want teams to not feel like they should sit their guys. They want them to play.
But then I understand the other end of it of you don't want those guys to get hurt, right? There's always that risk of injury. But I just think from a fan perspective, just from a pride perspective, in terms of a divisional game, I mean, the Packers are 1-3 in the division. I don't think they want to drop to 1-5 if they end up sitting everybody and they lose the last 2 games and they limp into the playoffs because of being able to sit guys. So I don't think they would, but I'm not the coach. I'm not sure what they'll do, but I would say don't sit the guys. And if anything, play them for a half and then the second half, let other guys take over. Once hopefully
sort of see how the game is going.
Right.
They tried to do that in 2021 and it kind of backfired, I think, in a little bit of way because they were like, they wanted Devontae Adams to get the record and they're force feeding him. And then they played David Bakhtiari, even though he wasn't really ready. And then we basically haven't seen a full season of David Bakhtiari since. He played in 2023, in 2022 on and off. I don't know what the future of David Bakhtiari is. He may have just kind of quietly retired and we didn't even realize it. I don't think any of these questions are easy, Lily. If you're Matt LaFleur, though, how do you keep these guys focused? How do you keep these guys motivated? Because again, you're not really playing for that much, especially after you get one. Like if they beat Seattle, they're going to get Spencer Rattler, on Monday night. Like how do you get up for a game like that? If you're Matt LaFleur, you're going, well, we need to make sure that they stay focused. But how do you do that? I don't have a good answer for that.
Well, I think the last 2 weeks it's easy, right? Divisional games, that'll be easy. I think the Seattle game in that environment, that'll be easy. But you're right, a Monday nighter against a Saints team that is
easy to motivate them. You mean you don't mean easy to win?
Easy to motivate the last 2 games for sure. But you're right, it's going to be if the Packers can beat the Seahawks. I mean, that Monday night game, I would never call it a trap game, but it's one of those games where you don't want to sleepwalk through it. It's still an NFL team. Monday night at home, you still want to win it. But maybe it is the fact that, it's pride. I don't think you want to, go into the playoffs kind of thinking, oh, maybe we should have tried this or maybe we should have played a better game here. Maybe it just is pride, and that's what motivates these guys. Because I think for them, as they take the Matt LaFleur approach, it's 0-0 every week. They want to go 1-0. So why not, right? Why not win it for pride? And then maybe the seeding changes around you and you get a better seed. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it seems like, if you're going to be a championship caliber team, focus can't be a question, right? Like you have to bring it every week. Like it would be reflective of the team. Not that they are going to think about it necessarily, but you and I from the outside will go, if they can't get up for these games the rest of the way, if they think they have aspirations of beating the Lions, beating the Eagles, they don't if they can't get up for these games. And I think that, you're a professional, you're getting paid a lot of money. That's part of the deal. But also like, if you are as good as you think you are, and you seem to say you are, then you have to get up for these games.
Absolutely. And you're right. If you want to be a Super Bowl caliber team, you need to beat the teams that you should beat. And that should be the Seahawks and the Saints. And that's what I think this team wants to aspire to, right? They're a good team, but to be a great team, and you have to beat the good teams. They couldn't do that against the Vikings, the Lions, and the Eagles, but you can still beat the teams on your schedule to get there and give yourself a chance to do that in the postseason. So you're right. If you want to be a Super Bowl caliber team, prove it. Prove it on Monday night, prove it on Sunday night.
The Packers have trial ballooned the idea of wearing all whites on Sunday night, Lily. How do you feel about the all whites in prime time? Do you think will you feel differently? Maybe a little rain, snow mix in the forecast potentially for Sunday night? Like, what do you think?
I don't mind it. I think a lot of people wanted like a yellow stripe. They're not a fan of the whites, but I think they look fresh. I don't, why not? It'd be cool. Be cool to see. And yeah, you're right. If the weather has a little bit of snow or whatnot, I'm like, it just adds to the Packer allure. I think it'd be fun.
It does seem like it's not going to be warm. Like it's going to be a chilly night in Seattle. So, we'll see. The showers are in the forecast. I don't think it's going to, right now, it's not going to get quite cold enough, I don't think, to turn into snow.
Right? Okay.
But we're close. Like if it's 38, 37, like we could get one of those wintry mixes kind of deals. I don't know. I think the yellow stripe is a missed opportunity. I ended up liking the all whites more than I thought I would, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm of the same thought.
All right. Well, holidays coming up. Packers playoff push. Locked On Packers, Lily Zhao. We always thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Love it. Thank you, Peter.
All right. Thanks to Lily for joining the show. Always great to talk with her. Big game on Sunday night. Packers, Seahawks, playoff implications on the line. I wrote today on The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to, that I think that they should open seed the playoffs, that your seeding should be based on your record, and that you should only be guaranteed a spot by winning your division. That's all winning your division should get you. Maybe be a tiebreaker as well. It would leave the Packers likely playing the Seahawks again, but it would be in a 4-5 matchup where Green Bay would be the home team. It seems like the regular season should matter. But the Packers have to beat the Seahawks first for that to even be a discussion point. So we'll see. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. We are there for Locked On Packers. We are there on YouTube. We will be live after the game on YouTube, another primetime game. I'll go to bed when I go to bed, I guess. And you can stay Locked On Packers.